Digital Marketing Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Bob Gentle, and every week I'm joined by creators, consultants, and practitioners who share what makes their business work. Whether you run your own business or you're just thinking of stepping out on your own for the first time, you're in the right place. If you're new to the show, then welcome along. Just take a second right now to subscribe in your podcast player. That way you don't miss new weekly episodes, and you can dig into some older ones when you finish this one. If it's your first time joining us for the show, then you'll probably want to join our Facebook group. Just visit the shortcut URL amplifyme.fm/insiders and you'll be taken right there. This week, my guest is Ka Kei Ho, all the way from Colombia. Ka Kei wanted to build a business he could scale with his girlfriend, and Kappa 99 was born. And I'm not going to give too much away because he really has an interesting story. So, welcome along, and let's meet Ka Kei. So this week on the podcast, I'm delighted to welcome Ka Kei. Ka Kei runs a business called Kappa 99. Ka Kei, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and the kind of work you do?
Sure thing. So my name is Ka Kei. I'm in Colombia, and the work that we do at Kappa 99 is basically we are any business or agency owner team of graphic designers for just one monthly fee. So basically, it's like Netflix of graphic design. You just can request as many projects as you want for one low monthly fee, and you don't have to hire anyone. Just buy the subscription. So that's basically what we do.
And how long have you been running that business now?
That would be from December 2015. At the time, my then girlfriend, now wife, was and is a graphic designer. She was out of a job, I think, and I was running my restaurant with my dad. And by that time, I was reading this book, which was called The 7-Day Startup. And basically, the writer of the book had a business which was unlimited support for WordPress. And then I had this idea to do the same for graphic design. At the time, that was very novel. Nobody had done it before. And I talked with my now wife and started the business right then and there, basically.
I think you're right. I think back then that was quite a novel thing to do. I think now there are a few other people doing similar things in a fairly high-profile way. But in 2015, that was brand new. You said your girlfriend, then now wife, was a graphic designer. Is she still involved in the business?
Yes, she's our operations manager, and she's still involved in the business with me. So we run it together.
So 2015, that's a few years ago now. So that's a fairly mature business in terms of the space you occupy. How many clients do you typically work with at one time now?
It can go from more than 50 at any time. So that really depends as there are clients coming and clients going. Some people might not need the service for 2 months and then come back for 2 months again. And that really depends because, for example, the great thing with our service is that they can request unlimited graphics. And some people need social media graphics, and what they do is they organize all the graphics that they will need for social media in the next 3 months, and then they can actually do it in 1 month. And so they use the service for 1 month and then come back in 3 months again and do the same. So that really depends. Yeah.
That's actually very flexible. I think I'd like to get into the way you deliver the service a little bit later on, but I'm still curious to maybe dig into the backstory a little bit, because you said you were working in your father's restaurant. So you don't come from a business background as such. That's quite a brave thing to start a business like this. Or have I misunderstood things a little bit?
Well, to be honest with you, I would say that I started the restaurant with my dad. He was running the kitchen. I was running the restaurant. So before that, I was a professional poker player. And before that, there's no job history. So basically, that's has been my life. So I was a professional poker player. I pretty much started playing at 16, I think, and played through probably 6 years or so. So at 22, 23 or something like that, I started the restaurant. And then Kappa 99. So that's basically my story, and yeah, I think I have never had a job per se that I have never worked for anybody else. So I have been pretty much a self-starter since the beginning.
That gives a lot more context. That makes much more sense. So I have to ask about the professional poker player. I think a lot of people have a fantasy of themselves being a professional poker player. I can't count for toffee, so I can't imagine how I would ever be a professional poker player. But how do you just decide I'm going to be a professional poker player? How does that happen?
So at the time, I was very young when I learned about poker. I was around 16, I think. And before that, I was trying to make some money online, like at 15 or 14, maybe even at 13. I had a small blog, and people were buying like text linked ads from me. I'm not even sure if you remember these or are you aware of this company. They basically paid you for a link to their website. So that's I was making like maybe $50, maybe even $100 per month on any good month when I was around 14 or 15. And then I had a friend who has just won a poker tournament. I was like, I don't know, that's gambling, might not be my thing. And then he kept at it, and then he kept winning, and I was like, I'm not making so much money with my blog now. Maybe I should try something else. And then I maybe deposit like $50, and I was my friend was explaining to me pretty much the game, and then I got so deep into the game that I actually think that I became pretty good at it. I think people has a misconception that poker is about math, and while it has some aspect or math component, I wouldn't say that it's pretty much it's not much about math. It's more about understanding people and the people play the way people play, and then by understanding that you can kind of figure out what type of hand that person can have in certain situations, and based on that then you can just make your decision. So in a way it's about logic more than math.
Yeah, that makes sense. I still think poker for me would be a dangerous route to go down. Yeah, I think you can run out of money very quickly that way.
Yeah, there are
Clearly, you must have
ways.
been quite good at it.
Yeah, there are ways, and most professional poker players have like some rules about bankroll management and all those stuff. You actually learn a lot about business and about yourself by playing poker, because it is a game that requires a lot of self control. If you lose control, and in many ways you will go you will not win. So yeah, I played online, which is a bit different than live games. You can play a lot many hands in an online setting. There were some legal issues in the U.S. Where it was the biggest market for poker, and then pretty much I quit after that. The games were not as good, and it wasn't worth it anymore for me. And then I was already running my restaurant with my dad, and then I started Kappa 99 to which, to be honest with you, were very humble beginnings. I think we had our first client after 2 months. We didn't spend any money on ads or anything like that. We just built a website, like a very, very bare bones website. It was just a landing page. All you can do was, I think, buy the service with a PayPal button, and it took us almost 2 months, I think, to get the first client. It was just basically finding people on Facebook groups, Reddit, and stuff like that. And then after that, we got our first client, and we never stopped since then.
And so, at what point was it with Kappa 99 that you realized, okay, we actually have a business now? Because the first client, yeah, I guess the kind of price point you're at, it's not it's not a low cost. It's affordable for what you're giving, but you have to cover a lot of costs with that as well. So at what point, how many months in or years in did you look at this and go, hey, this is actually really good?
Yeah, that is really good questions, because I don't really remember the time that I realized that this is a real thing. But it might have been the first time between my wife and I that thought, okay, we need to find someone to help us, because this is just too much work for you and I. So that might have been maybe at the 10-month mark. It wasn't like a overnight success where you just launch the website and everyone is coming to buy your service. It wasn't quite like that. It was more like a progressive thing where people were recommending their friends and then friends of friends, and then it just started to happen organically, and then we started to need more people and then more people, and then when the time came and we could afford to buy ads and add some marketing on paid marketing on the mix, we started to grow more, and I would say it would be around the 10-month mark to the 1 year mark, and I'm not completely sure about the time, but it was around then.
And adding that first designer, or was it a designer, or was it
Yes,
somebody to do something
it
else?
was a designer the first hire.
And how many, obviously 10 months, 2015, that's what, 4 years ago. In those 4 years, how many designers are you up to now?
We have around a team of 30 designers right now, and we started with just my wife.
Hmm.
She still designs some, but not much. Most of her job is to make sure that the thing runs nicely.
Which kind of leads me on to my next question because, well, maybe before I go there, tell me a little bit about where your designers are because I can't imagine that you have them all in a studio somewhere.
No, so all our designers work remotely from their home. That's one big advantage, I think, and that's how I like working, because when I was a poker player, I could work from anywhere. I actually did that. I traveled a bunch. I have been to many places thanks to being remote independent. Yeah, I can be working from anywhere pretty much. So I like it, the idea of being capable of starting a business that allowed me and my employees to work from anywhere. I thought that was a big advantage. So all our graphic designers are in Latin America, in different countries like Colombia, and yeah. So basically, everyone works from home. That's the bottom line.
And the obvious question for me there is having had remote staff, some people are great at it and some people are terrible. And then in between there are a lot of people that sometimes they're great, sometimes they're bad, but a lot of the time they can actually be quite dishonest. Now, I'm not saying every remote worker is dishonest, not by any means. But how do you maintain control or discipline or oversight?
Okay. So that is a very interesting question. So from the very beginning, we have set systems in place to make sure that the work gets done. And if it doesn't, it will be very obvious that it wasn't done. So basically, what you have to do, you cannot just be behind your workers, even if they're in your office, right? So what you do is instead, you send them the task, you tell them I need this by then, and the task should be delivered by then. It doesn't matter to you if they do it from their bedroom or from their office. It is pretty much the same, right? So they might take breaks at their home. They might take breaks in the office. I think it is maybe a generational thing, where for my generation it might be more common to work from home, because at least for me, I have been attached to a computer pretty much from age 7 or 11, or sorry, or 8, from age 7 to 8. I had a computer at my home. I had internet access, which was like dial-up, not very good, but still internet. Uh, so I think because I have only worked remote besides the restaurant, I know that I can trust people, and actually people feel that because they're working remotely, they have to be more. Well, if you find the right people anyway, they have to be more responsible, because there's not much one-to-one contact like in the office you would find.
Yeah, I think as well because what you're doing is very visual. It's very obvious if it's done or not. Whereas if you're coming from the software or the web development perspective, sometimes it's far more subjective as to whether something's been done well or not,
Yes.
because you're just looking at a pile of code.
Yes,
So
especially if
yeah,
you are not aware of the code, or if you don't know much about programming. Uh, Yeah, to be honest, that would be much harder, and I think you would definitely want to find like someone very capable as well as someone very very honest in that case. But I think that that applies to any profession, whether it is remote or not. You need to find someone that's very professional as well as honest, and that's why before we hire anyone, what we do is like a test in terms of not even like a skill test, but more about like a personality test to see if they're the right fit for the company.
And what kind of personality test do you use? Is it something you've produced yourself, or is it
Yes, we
a sort of
actually
Briggs
hired.
Myers thing?
Yeah, we actually hired a psychologist to work with us. He's our HR manager, and basically he pretty much vets anyone that will come to work with us. And the process is basically just that. They get a test from him, and the test is designed to make sure that our employees actually share the same values that we share as a company.
That's a really good idea. Some people may not think so. I do.
Yeah, I think when you are working in a remote setting, you have to have some ways to make sure that the people that work with you, even though they're very far from you or they might be just next door, even then you want to work with people that share the same values that you do, because whenever an issue might arise, you both will be on the same page, which I think is very important.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'd like to look at your customers a little bit now. I'm curious to know, obviously, it's very easy to say, well, every business could come and use Kappa 99 because we do design, we take that pressure away. But you'll know yourself who's most successful when they work with you.
Right.
What does your ideal customer look like?
So we have two ideal customers. The first one is just a marketing manager that's just handling too much, and it is the marketing manager for a small business. That might even be the owner, but they require graphics or marketing assets like flyers and stuff like this for social media, and they just don't have just enough time. And with us, they can free up so much time. The other business that really like working with us are agencies, which basically they don't have to go through the hiring process of graphic designers, hiring in-house, outsourcing. All of that can be a little bit just too much, and especially if you want to hire uh, remote workers, if you don't have a process like we have in place to vet people, it can happen sometimes that people just go, they start the task, and then they leave. And so that's one thing that I have heard so many times. Like I hired someone, they didn't finish the project, they were tired of my revisions, they were charging more per revision, stuff like this. So our promise is basically we want to give people whatever they want in terms of graphic design. So we will work over any task until they are completely happy, and our graphic designers understand that, because our mission is to save people time, money, and especially frustration, because that's what we have found what people want. So to jump a bit about what I think in business, I think in business you just have to give people what they want, because they are deciding with their money whether your service or your product is something worth paying for.
And I guess a question I have around how an agency might work with you. One of the things that I assume can be problematic is consistency, because you have 30 designers. They all have a slightly different aesthetic. How do you manage sort of visual consistency across multiple projects with a client?
That is very good questions, and I think that's something that we have we even thought about this from the very beginning. If you go and find like unlimited graphic design on Google, you will find like many services. The thing has gone crazy. There are many services now, and what they do, which I think is very different than what we do, and what I would say is what set us apart, is we don't actually provide you a graphic designer, which is what most services do. For example, if you buy our subscription, you won't get access to one graphic designer, you get access to all graphic designers. What we do instead is we assign you project managers who has the task of finding the best designer for the task that you need. So, for example, if you're going with a logo, we'll find you a logo designer. But to jump back to your consistency questions, I think that That also the task of the project manager. The project manager will get to know what you like, your brand, and all of that. So the project manager will work with the graphic designer to make sure that it is on brand, as well as there are also brand guidelines and stuff like this that always help, even though you might be working at a different with a different design or a different graphic designer. There are always brand guidelines that will help, but for the most part, I think, and what is most important is that we assign you project managers that will get to know your brand deeply and make sure that everything is on par. And one of the reasons that we offer a free 15-day trial is because of that, because we think that in order to be able to be a service of an useful service for businesses and agencies is to get to know the way people communicate and the way that people want their designs to be, and that takes a bit of time. We understand that it's very, very, very hard to just get a graphic design just right on the first try, or to get communication just right on the first try. So that's an like it is like a relationship. You just don't go and date some person for one date and now you marry that person. Like you get to know each other and then you marry that person. So that's why we offer free trial, and that's the way we think about graphic design should be in terms of how to communicate. It is a relationship that is always evolving.
I really like that because I have spoken to people who offer similar services over the last couple of years, and you're absolutely right. It is, you tend to work with a very small team of designers or a single designer, but the guy who's designing your business cards is not going to be the best guy for designing logos.
Yes.
And it's not going to be the best guy for social media graphics. So having that project manager who knows you intimately and knows the designers intimately, that does sound like a much, much better solution. I really like that.
Yeah, and I think that's what set us apart, because most people just pretty basically, if you see it from like a different point of view, what other people are doing is basically solving the issue of having to hire like a graphic designer, because they just go ahead and give you one, and if you don't like that one they will change it. So they're basically solving the issue of hiring that one, but they're not solving the issue of how to get the graphics design that you want every time, how to make sure that everything is on brand and all of that. So we are actually trying to solve that problem as well.
So do you have any really good success stories about maybe how people's businesses have been transformed through partnership with your company? It's possibly putting you on the spot a little bit, but I think sometimes it's far easier to illustrate a point with a story.
Right. Okay. So we have many clients that have more than 4 years. Yeah. Wait. So yeah, more than 3 years and a half with us around that time. So even they might be like small businesses or medium-sized businesses, I'm very happy that they have stayed for so long, because that means that we are currently and actually providing so much value that they can live without us. So if some businesses have grown like many, many, many times, like from what they started with. There's this example, Sweet Fish Media. They're an agency that produces B2B podcasts. I love them. They are one of our first clients. And I think when James started, which is the founder, he was like himself. I think that he have grown to be like more than $1 million company. He has interviewed people like Gary Vee and stuff like that. I think not many people are in the space that he is. He works with very, very big brands, and we love working with him. So that's a great story. But for the most part, I think what makes us feel the most sense of accomplishment would be the fact that many clients have stayed with us for so long, because they use our service every single day. Every single day they submit new tasks, and I gotta tell you, there hasn't been a day from the day that we got our first client where we didn't like. There hasn't been a day where we don't have work. Every day we have some work to do. Every day.
Yeah, I think the longevity of your clients really is the best evidence, really, that It may not be for everybody, but it's definitely right for a lot of people.
Yes,
Um,
and that's something very important. The service is not for everyone. So, for example, if you are, we have had clients that are corporate clients, and they use the service not for their marketing per se, but they use it for their internal marketing. So what these corporate clients do is, for example, they are like HR for a big company, and they need to send like nice flyers or stuff like that to their employees, and they hire us to do that. So yeah, the service is not for everyone, but if it is for you, we will make sure that you actually get the value that you're seeking with us. If you're willing to work with us for the first 15 days and beyond, then we will make sure that we get to know your brand and all of that, which I think is very important because I have, like, for example, we're not for the impatient client. We have had clients that get one design and they might not even like that, and then they just go away. Like, for example, if you're not willing to work towards getting to know the style and the way that you communicate with us, then it doesn't make sense because it has to be that way for us. We have to get to know you. We have to understand what it is actually that you want. If we cannot do that, or if you don't have the time to invest in that relationship, it's going to be very hard. But at the same time, I think it's going to be very, very hard to find like a magician that can just read your mind and give you the design that you want in just one try in 2 hours, you know.
I think you're in the personal taste business, and if somebody doesn't like what they see first time round, that's part of a tuning in process for a designer, that you need that negative reaction in order to orientate and find out what the customer really likes.
Correct, yes.
And some customers just find that really hard to understand.
Yes, and that's the customer that is usually frustrated, and they don't even know how to fix it. I think what they have to fix is just their patience. With that, they might find the designer that they need. Of course, we're not asking for a 3 month period to understand what you need for just one project. Instead, what we say is that, okay, this project didn't came just as you like, but we will work on it, and by working on it, we will actually get to know you better, and by knowing you better, the next projects will come better. So just investing the time on this one project will save you time on the next projects. But if you go from designer to designer, or from agency to agency, or from I don't know, whatever, you just will find that you will never find someone you like working with unless you find like a magician that can actually read your mind.
Yeah, sadly, there's not very many of those, and those that there are generally faking it. I think what I'd be really interested, I can hear what's working well,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the business model is for the right customer, it's brilliant. But 4 years in, 30 staff, I'm really curious to know now, what's difficult for you? Where do you find the challenges are at the moment?
Sure, there are always growing pains. In terms of the more we want to grow, the harder it is to grow. It is not the opposite, like a software company, where the more people have using your service, you can easily scale because it's just software. But in our case, it's just not like that because you have to add like middle management. You have to figure out how to handle all these new tasks because one client is just not just one client; it is many new tasks, and that requires more manpower. So growing is actually a difficult thing to do because unlike software, you need actual people to uh, run the service. So I would say that's something that we have found hard. We always find ways to, for example, streamline processes. We don't have our own software at the moment. We are currently working on that, which will help us a lot. But we have built some internal tools that help our project managers to identify what is a priority and how to help our customers faster. I think that's one of the things that we started to notice that our the time that we were taking to actually serve the client was getting bigger because the more clients we have, the more work we do, and the less time we have to do all the work. So we have found ways in software to solve that. I think it is not enough. We are still currently finding ways to improve, as well as finding more people to work with us. For the most part, I think that's the biggest challenge for sure.
Mm. Now, one thing I really have to ask about is on the homepage of your website, there's a little video of John Lee Dumas telling everyone how wonderful you are. I have to ask, what did you do for him?
Okay, so that's a good story. The way that we got to work with John Lee was when we started the service, pretty much around the 4 to 5 month mark. I reached out to John and I said, "Hey, I would love to have you try my service." I think the reason that I did that was because I saw him also provide like a testimonial for WBP Curve, which was the service that was on the book. So I said, okay, maybe I can get like a testimonial from John. And John told us, okay, I can give you a testimonial, but only if I try the service for 6 months. So it took us 6 months of hard work to actually get a testimonial from him, which I think is completely fair because he has a large audience and a lot of people know him. So him actually put his name behind a brand, he actually has to make sure that the service is actually a good service. So we worked with him and his wife for 6 months, and then he provided the review and the testimonial.
I think with somebody like John Lee Dumas, and for anybody listening who doesn't know who John Lee Dumas is, just Google biggest podcaster on the planet and you'll come up with John Lee Dumas. He's a very big deal, and he would not put his name to something that he didn't genuinely value. I know that for a fact. So that says a lot.
Yeah, and if you are like a small brand just starting up, like committing 6 months of work to this person that you might not even be sure if they like the service, and they might not even provide a testimonial because they don't have to, only if they like the service.
Mm.
And I was very clear about that with him, and he was very clear about that with me, which I think I really appreciate. If he didn't like the service, he of course wouldn't provide like a testimonial, and that's completely fair. And we actually committed to work with him for that period of time. It was like imagine just asking for a testimonial and then you get asked, okay, but I have to try it for 6 months. It is a really long period of time, especially when you're just starting out. But we committed to it, and I'm happy that he liked the service.
Well, I really like your business model. I think there are lots of ways that you can go as a graphic designer. You can really go the boutique, high-end, quality, intimate relationship route. And yeah, there are ways you can scale that. The route that you've taken is another one equally valid and delivering a ridiculously powerful service for the right kind of customer. So yeah, I really, really admire what you've done. I admire your business. And yeah, well done.
Thank you. I really appreciate your kind words.
Ka Kei, we've probably used enough of your time today. If people want to connect with you, how would you like them to do that?
Okay, so they can always reach me on the live chat, and I love to say this because most people just hate to talk around live chat. But if they have a questions on the service, they can reach me on the live chat, and I will answer very, very fast. But they can also reach me via email, which is kk@kapa99.com. I'm happy to talk about anything regarding business or anything else, or it can just be to say hi. Maybe like a poker player is listening and they want to start a business, they can reach me.
Okay, and anybody listening, 15-day free trial, what's not to love?
Yes. I am very bad at promoting myself and my service, but thank you for that. They can try the service for free for 15 days, and if they don't like it, they can just cancel. We don't bill anyone until they actually start after the 15-day trial, so you don't have to pay on those first 15 days.
Now that is actually very novel. I know nobody else is doing that.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, I think that's a way for us to signal that we are in this for the long haul. So, if, for example, if you want to just take advantage of the free trial, okay, you might, but you will have to go ahead and find another designer for your next project. But we are in this for the long haul, which means that if giving you away free 15 days of work will help us get to know each other better, then we will put that amount of time up front, just like we did with John.
And that's a very big commitment. 15 days of money is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because you still have to pay people.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And they get to use the service as if they were paying already.
So, Ka Kei, thank you very much for your time today. You've been a great guest. I've really enjoyed speaking to you. I know we tried to do this once before and we had such a bad internet connection we had to give up. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for sticking with it. It's great to meet you properly.
Awesome. Really,
Thank you.
really honored to be with you here today. And thank you so much for having me.
Kappa 99 and the all-you-can-eat graphic design business model isn't for everyone. But Ka Kei's business is thriving, and there's a lesson there for those that want to listen. There are lots of ways to grow any business, and Ka Kei chose not to grow his the same way as everyone else. Before I go, just a quick reminder to subscribe, and if you haven't, again, join our Facebook group. You can find the link in the show notes, or just visit amplifyme.fm/insiders. If you're a regular listener, then I'd love you to connect with me on social media. Follow me on Instagram or Twitter, where I'm @BobGentle, and if you do, then message me so I can follow you back. If you enjoyed the show, then I would love you to review on iTunes. It would mean a lot to me, and it's the very best way to help me reach more subscribers. My name's Bob Gentle. Thanks to Ka Kei for giving us his time this week, and to you for listening. See you next time.